Good evening and welcome to another day of Meet Your Design and Fashion School. This is an interesting series that we do each year. Let me share my screen. Yeah, and the objective of the series is to interact with the top management of each school, keep your options open to private design and fashion schools, and save money by applying to a few specific schools of your choice, right? Not every school. So that's what we want you to do. In case you've missed a previous webinar we've done on SOP writing, you can find that in our YouTube channel under the membership, YouTube memberships. Uh, in case you also missed the webinar on navigating design school admissions, you can go through our YouTube channel. This is another one which is very important, and make sure you're on our DQ Labs WhatsApp groups. Now, in this particular webinar, we've covered a lot about RV University, which is the guest for today. So if you are watching right now, you could scan these three bit links and you'll get these you'll get to reach these specific links, which are very important for you. But coming down to today's session, today we are meeting with Dr. Anuradha Chatterjee, who's the head, who's the Pro-Vice Chancellor and the Professor and Dean at the School of Design and Innovation, RV University. So we're going to start off a little bit by introducing Dr. Anuradha Chatterjee. She's a transnational academic practitioner. She shuttles between Australia and India and is primarily in India now. And she has done her bachelor's and master's in architecture, and she's got a lot to do with healthier materials and sustainable building. She studied that at the Parsons School of Design in New York. Dr. Chatterjee has worked in Australia for about 10 years before moving to China. She's worked with the Sino-British University, and then she returned to India in 2015. She's worked across various prominent educational institutions before taking up a leadership role at the School of Design and Innovation, RV University, in 2023. And she's shaping it to be one of the most prominent, dynamic, and progressive design schools in the country. Right now, I'm going to stop my screen share and welcome Dr. Chatterjee
Thank
to
you.
this discussion.
I'm going to start sharing. If at any point you don't see something and you can't hear me, please stop me. I don't mind being interrupted. So, hi everyone. Thank you for taking out the time today to come and join us at RV University. I'm talking to you today about the School of Design and Innovation. I want to talk a little bit about our people because I think people make institutions, and the legacy that RB has is an 80-year-old legacy of RSST trust that actually has established as well as sustained over 22 educational institutions, and RB is probably one of the second youngest. RB University is probably the second youngest, but the most dynamic and emerging institutions in this group. This is a school leadership that I want to show you because I think, again, we talk about design and it's a collaborative effort. And I want to show you that for each of the programs, we have people in charge. Campus is a learning hub. What I want to talk about today is that the kind of campus that you will experience at RV University is kind of co-located with RV College of Engineering. And so it's kind of almost it's kind of woven into the fabric of RVCE, and it's a learning hub model in which you have different buildings and kind of in close adjacency and affinity. And these are the buildings. So the image in the center is the School of Design and Innovation, and the left is the RV. So you'll probably get to experience a lot of these buildings as you move through from first year to the fourth year. I don't want to talk about our schools. We have a number of schools in the university, not just my School of Design and Innovation. The reason I want to talk about that is because we're a fundamentally interdisciplinary university. And therefore, it is important that you know that we have the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences and Film and Media and Creative Arts, a School of Law, Computer Science and Engineering, Business and Economics, because you will get to experience not just School of Design and Innovation, but a lot of these other schools as well as part of the university ethos. So without really going too much into detail, I want to give you a glimpse of spaces and people in action in these spaces. This is the SDI building. It's one of the oldest in the campus, and it's got all these workshops and sketching studios and 3D printers and Mac Lab and kiln and this woodworking and metal studio. The art design school is incredibly hands-on, and there's a lot of infrastructure investment that is going on from the management side. And so that's something that to take home. That's a classroom block that just gives you a sense of, again, how students interact, how students inhabit these spaces, how do they customize these spaces, and it's kind of, quite fluid and, designed to a high spec, I think, specification, which is important for you to know as you're coming into our university. I want to talk to you about the majors or what we call the disciplines that we have, the specialization or the majors that we have at SDI. We have Bachelors of Design. The Bachelors of Design honors from 2023 onwards as per the UGC rules. We have the BDES user experience, which has 2 tracks of digital interactive systems and extended reality. We have BDES in interior environments, communication and new media, and product with also has its 3 tracks of industrial design and digital products and lifestyle accessories. And BDES is our newest, most loved program of transdisciplinary context, which we've launched from 2024 onwards. We also have Masters in Design and User Experience, and we're starting Communication Design as well. So I want to give you a sense of the RVU minors, and they change from year to year. Every academic year, the offering is slightly different. But the premise I want you to take home is that every student who enters our university graduates with a major and a minor. And the minor is 32 credits out of 160. And I think that's an important takeaway as well, because it tells you that there's a substantial amount of learning that actually happens. So it's not quite the same as electives, but you actually do it over 3 years. And minor is in fact also listed as one of your achievements on your degree certificate. So when a BDES student graduates, they say that the student is graduating with a bachelor's in a BDES in experience design and user experience design, but also a minor in transdisciplinary design. So that's one of the unique offerings that we have, not only in the school, but all the university. And these are the kinds of, if you just glance at it, again, like I said, it changes every year. But if you glance at it, it gives you a sense of these are the minors on offer. So we always encourage our students to take minors from computer science and engineering, from School of Business, from School of Film, and this year's liberal arts as well. So that really gives you a well-rounded and a quite a kind of a comprehensive education. I'll give you again a glimpse of the kind of electives because students, every time we present what we do, students want to know, oh, what are we going to do in terms of electives? So electives are not, they're good, solid amount of learning, but it's not probably at the same level as a minor. It's a little bit fun in the sense, I mean, it's academic fun. It's not fun, but it's kind of academic fun in the sense, as you can see, we talked about on the left, you can see Imagine Futures, creative coding, constructivist kind of compositions, user journeys, photographs, design conference, design journalism, shadow puppetry. On the left are listed the electives that we offer. And on the right are the electives that are offered also at the university level. So the student can take, these are open electives. Students can take either our electives or electives that are offered by other schools and in the university. So that's a pretty exciting proposition. School USP, I would say it's RV University, a School of Design Innovation, is a destination for students seeking design programs that does not deliver cookie cutter education. And what I mean by cookie cutter is that we've customized, we have delivered, we have developed it, it's not a copy paste, it's brandly an original. It's an original curriculum that has been developed and delivered to the students. We offer a diversity of programs, but also pathways, including programs. So we're just not giving you a stock standard product design or a user experience design, but we're also giving you tracks within that. We are committed to giving students immersive hands-on learning and real-time projects and programs, things like communication and new media, interior environments, and transdisciplinary contexts are programs that are recognizable internationally. They have a presence and recognizable internationally. So we are playing more at not just at the national level, but we're also kind of pitching and punching at the international level. And the curriculum is incredibly modernized. We are integrating technology and digital tools from first year onwards, which I think is incredibly important for the students. And so we don't have these kind of dogmatic ideas about when technology should be integrated or not. And I think what I want you to take away also is that we are preparing students for creative careers that are not just corporate, but they're also entrepreneurial as well as social impact. So what we really want to do is create tomorrow's thought leaders and not just employees, right? Our pedagogy is, I imagine that, and this is one of the classrooms that we were looking at before, as a journey full of experiment, inquiry, risk-taking, and evidence-based research and decision-making. We see design as a collaborative act, so between the student and faculty members and the institution and industry and community at large. So it's not something that just happens in the classroom, but it happens broadly from the classroom to the city, to the institutions and to community at large. So the education is kind of experienced and understood in a continuum. Design requires an integrated approach to learning, which draws upon fields of art, architecture, design, science, humanities, social science. And that's why we said that, we are offering these electives and minors, because design really is an integration of all of these aspects. And a student would be a much better designer if they went through this kind of a curriculum. And we also want our students to be prepared for the constantly changing topography of the world. By the time they graduate, the world might look quite different. And it is constantly changing, and sometimes it's not always changing for the good. So we want our students to be prepared when they graduate. At our university, we see design as an ethical, inclusive, and democratic, as an act, a product, an experience, and above all, a mindset, right? So design is a way of life. It's not just a degree that students do, but it's really a way of life. It shapes you. You're a designer. You're not just a degree holder of design. So that's what we really kind of try to instill. This is our student who's now in third year, and she was helping with the last year's induction program. And why I love this image is because it just shows how hands-on our students are, how risk-taking they are. So we have a fundamentally student-centered experiential immersive learning, as I talked about, collaboration, research-based inquiry. Our faculty have industry and academic experience. We don't have faculty who don't have industry experience. So that's really important. And we are also, trying to get students to engage with real-world project-based learning. We are using international paradigms in design education. We are learning what is the international best practice in design education, and we're adapting and including that. Excellent electives for lateral learning, industry lectures, minors, as I just talked about, and to be practice ready. So that it's not just ideas, but that when our students graduate, they're ready to fit into the industry. They are critical thinkers, but they are also skilled people, and also internships, like we talked about, internships in best companies for professional and personal growth. So one of the things I want to talk about also.
Finally, a commitment to people goes beyond training future professionals to create high quality design.
I think there was an echo there. I'll just go back to the previous slide. So one thing I want to talk about is the fact that we are very committed to creating inclusive learning environments and our faculty group is engaged in creating kind of learning environments as well as curriculum design as well as pedagogies that are to do not just with disability but also neurodivergence and mental health. On the right is I'm not sure why it's skipping forward, but just bear with me. I've actually run this course on the right, which was this mental health by design, and it was something that, and this is a collective mental health dossier where students have co-written what are the policy changes that needs to happen in design education. Our generation, the generation that we are teaching, are incredibly informed and enlightened about some of these issues. So as a school, this is something that we are committed to. We're also committed to sustainability, and this was the New Wave conference that was entirely student-led, student-organized, peer-reviewed design conference that we did last October, and the whole focus was on sustainability. And this was done in the Infosys Science Foundation. It was a fantastic citywide 2-day design conference, and it was a packed event. We're also aware of students, kind of the fact that we want students to reach out to the community at large. And this was a very interesting first year level Material Matters pop-up that happened in the Bangalore Creative Circus and Chitrakala Parishad. And kind of taking design objects out to the public and kind of gamifying it and engaging with people at large, because in the end, what our students are doing is that they are designing for people, right? They are designing for the society. So they are interacting and understanding and expanding their learning by interacting with people outside. This is also something that we stand for, Design for Justice. This exhibition was in fact opened by Sonia Manchanda, one of the prominent designers in Bangalore, and it was also covered in the World Design Organization newsletter as one of the most leading kind of exposition. So what I'm trying to show through this image is that we are very, very outward focused. We are focused on our students not just being locked in the classroom, but really showcasing. So this exhibition happened over 3 days in Chitrakala Parishad, and people from general public were walking in and having a look at the works that the students have done, and we kind of showcase some of the best that the students have done. So very, very outward focused. This was just a very quick kind of snapshot of the kind of works that were on display. So public discourse is very, very important. We just don't want our students to spend 4 years in the classroom or just in an office doing internship, but also engaging with public is very, very important, because design is a public thing, it's not a private thing. I want to talk a little bit about the kind of things that we do in terms of talks and lectures. And this was the most recent welcome address. We had 2 welcome addresses for quite a large batch that has come into the 2024 intake. And one was a very well-known kind of local designer called Mr. Vinay Rao from Bang Design, and the Pro-Vice Chancellor of British University, Egypt, who flew down to be with our students for the commencement address. We are very committed to, again, bringing the best from the outside in as well. Things like we're bringing in international experts. So Ginevra Franchi, who came in last week, to deliver a masterclass on design thinking from IED, Italy, and Ellen Lupton is zooming in from New York. So again, like we say, we are punching at the local as well as the global level, and these were talks from last year that happened in the school. We also have had a number of industry lectures. This is only a sample of a few things, but we're looking at Soumitra Ghosh, who is the architect of the Museum of Arts and Photography in Bangalore, and Manikanthan Ramanath. He talked about he's the head of UX. And industry lectures from Opali Nag, she's a communication designer, and Nagendra, who's he's an environmentalist. So our industry lectures are from quite a varied field, and they're quite regular, and we get interesting people. Student achievements. I want to talk about our students are fearless. they're quite bold, and they don't need any encouragement to kind of take part in things. And this was one of an international competition that was a collaboration between our students and faculty members, and they were shortlisted as the only country in South Asia to have been shortlisted. They didn't win, but that in itself is a win, to be shortlisted amongst all the countries overseas. And India was they were the only entry from India or South Asia, as I said. This is a familiar face to a lot of us, and one of the higher achievers in the university, and her work, and she took part in DQ Labs Design Hackathon. Thank you, DQ Labs, for giving these opportunities to our students, and it really kind of gives them that extra boost of confidence to take part in something, to really put in a bid, and not worrying about whether you're going to win or not. And then she won 2 awards at this particular design hackathon. We had an incredible time with our students going to Mumbai, and they were shortlisted to actually install these giant installations at Kalagura Arts Festival. If any of your students are interested in the fine arts or the visual arts or arts in general, you would know about Kalagura, and it was a real feat for them to assemble this in-house and ship it, then dismantle it, and then erect it again, and then bring it back to the university. Wonderful coverage to do this kind of work. Again, engaging with the public is something that we said. And our students also take part in internships. This is an internship project, again, very, very hands-on. This is Echoes of the Earth Festival, where they're making a giant installation to go into the festival with beam sticks. On the right, our students, we send them on a 15-day internship to Varanasi, where they worked with the Banaras locomotive works and Lalit Kala Academy to actually, work with scrap metal. So again, sustainability, working with public, and and that's how you gain a lot of your skills, really. And as I talked about, New Wave and on their lovely faces, and they're just so happy with the achievement, and what an achievement it was that the entire conference was designed as a public conference that was designed and curated and organized entirely by students, by master's and bachelor students. And that's Subhabrata Ghosh, who was the chief guest, and just on the right is a show of the exhibition that was part of that conference. International mobility, because I know that you all want to know a little bit about that. These are not just the only collaborations that we have. Our university has over 100 collaborations worldwide. I'm only showing you the ones that we are activating just now. And so we are looking at, mobilities, kind of regionally. We say America, we'll say UK, we'll say Asia, and then we'll say Europe. And so these are the different sectors that we're working on, and making these things possible for students. So I had a visit to IED last year when I went for a conference, and then, we expanded on this idea a little bit with Teesside University, who's in the UK. They came for a visit. Our relationship strengthened much more, and College for Creative Studies, who came again last year. And that's in Detroit. It's a fantastic design school. So our students finally went to IED and came back safely, of course, and they went for a summer school. So our students went to Florence, they went to Rome, and they went to Barcelona, and they did a 2 to 3 weeks long summer program, and immense learning, fantastic feedback from the students. They loved every minute of it. Not just academic, but also a kind of a cultural immersion. This is our student, Anjali, who was a spatial designer, but then she went to Rome, and she decided to take a fashion photo shooting. And she learned these skills so quickly, and that is such a benefit to her portfolio. And we are just incredibly proud of her. These are students who went to Teesside, and they did amazing work. They were there for 6 weeks. This was a much longer summer school, and everything was hands-on, working in the workshops, in the labs, in the photo studio, in the recording studio. I mean, Teesside had curated a customized 6-week summer program for them, and it was again such great value for money, and all that travel and all that, staying away from your family for 6 weeks and all of that. So again, excellent feedback from the students on that. Internships and placements is something that we made this creative last year. This was before. These are the kind of brands and places that you can probably ask us some more questions about it later. But the kind of places that students have gone to, our students are incredibly self-motivated. I mean, whether or not you put them in internships forcibly, they're going to do an internship anyway. And so these were the ones that were the non-mandatory internships. That was before the internship semester. And these, I want to talk about the placement, because I think generally people are curious about it, they're anxious about it, and we have a placement cell in the university. We have an RV University placement cell. And these the names and the companies that are highlighted here. The section on the top is the 2022 batch of Masters in Design User Experience that just graduated, and the bottom section is the one that graduated 2 years ago. And they've all been placed, and they've all had the first job, and they moved on to the second job. So if you're talking about placements, we've done 100% placement for the masters. Our bachelor students are yet to graduate. They will get placed by May. They'll all have some place to go, right? And these were the kinds of places that they've gone to for their mandatory internship for the bachelor's, for the BDES students. Again, a lot of it was facilitated by the university, but a lot of them was facilitated by themselves as well. The learning and teaching team are wonderful people. They come from all parts of India. And it's not, even though we're in Bangalore, it's not just a Bangalore school, because our people come from all over India. And I think that's such a treasure. I mean, I grew up in Delhi, and I've lived in Australia for a long time. And then, I've come back. So I'm in a way transient and travelers, just like my faculty who are here. They are very, very approachable. And like I said, we have a student-centered approach to learning. It's not dictatorial. It's not dogmatic. It's very, very collaborative. And it's very professional. It's very professional, and it's very, very collaborative. So that's my learning and teaching team. And I'm going to close with that and say welcome on board if you want to join us and to shape your creative careers. Thank you for this opportunity. I'll end that and stop sharing. I hope everybody could hear me and everything was fine.
Absolutely. It was very nice, very interesting to see what's happening at RV University, and interesting to see the entire collaborations as well, both within India and outside India, and the guest faculty were coming in from, again, across the globe. Very interesting to see that. But I'd like to ask the audience to start sending their questions in now. But before we, as we wait for those questions to come in, Dr. Anuradha, you mentioned about the interdisciplinary learning approach, right?
Yeah.
Now, why is that so important? I mean, that seems to be a very unique aspect of RV University. It creates very niche opportunities, right? So why is that so important in today's context?
I think, yeah, thank you, Dewan, for asking that question. So we're already doing a transdisciplinary design. I feel like transdisciplinary design is where a lot of our design efforts are going to go in the future, when we go from a product-based economy to a much more innovation or a systems-based economy. And why we started the program is that we already have a transdisciplinary minor, and it's doing really well. And so we thought, we should start. And so even 2023 students who were now in second year were asking, why don't you have that? So we kind of looked at student demand. One was that. But one was that we genuinely feel that this is where the design field is going to go. I want to talk a little bit about how we define this degree. So this degree is a new field of design, which I said it has its own set of skills, knowledge, and methodologies. It's probably different. It's actually quite different from the usual design programs, which is very, very much more arts and crafts and skills based, right? And so this is much more interesting for a person who is interested in liaising and managing and consolidating information, researching, critical thinking, problem solving, getting a team together, managing a team, but they are designers. They are designers with a different kind of a skill set. So when somebody says that, what does a transdisciplinary designer do? We say the outcomes that they have are not digital or physical, but they have social change. They're working more towards social change. And it's quite different, like we said, from the other other design programs. We say what does a transdisciplinary designer have skills? Do they not have any skills? Because but the point is that we have to we are defining skill sets differently for this particular program. We are saying that they will have skills once they graduate. They will have skills in information design, design research, systems design, participatory design, project management, and it will just make them that much more, flexible, adaptable. They would be in demand by the industry. One thing I want to talk about is that also for students who are doing the BDES transdisciplinary context are also going to be doing a design minor. And so therefore that is a wonderful combination for them to come out with and say, yes, I have a transdisciplinary design degree, but I also have a design minor. So I'm not a designer, but I'm a transdisciplinary designer who can fit into many different industries. And some of these industries are not just design industries, but they are healthcare, they're education, they're green energy, they're civic infrastructure, transportation, agriculture. So broadly, it's a new program, and I'm saying there are students who've already joined us. So, thanks to them for having the faith in that, and more students who already joined the minor. So, yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is interesting. I like this concept of the transdisciplinary program. What kind of a student would like we have students who want to do, say, communication design or product design or
Yeah.
UI UX design. So what kind of a student would want to do transdisciplinary?
Yeah, it's hard. We were talking about the other day, we said students who are creative, but not creative in the typical sense of arts-based creativity, because creativity, even a business person is creative, right? Even a scientist is creative. So creativity and arts are not the same thing. So students who are even a little bit anxious that I'm not really good at this, and can I really sustain this, and can I really excel in this, and but they have good ideas. They are kind of like we talked about the skill sets. They can organize, they can research, they can they can manage teams, they can project manage. So if they have those skill sets and those mindsets, and they think, but I want to be part of design, but I don't think I have that interest. I wouldn't even say capability. I think interest in that arts-based or crafts-based creativity and education. This would be a perfect way for them to enter design, I think.
All right. That's interesting. And you also mentioned about your interior environments program, right? Could you give us a little more insight on that particular specialization?
I will. Thank you for asking. I think one of the why it has, I guess, such an odd name, and I think students and parents are probably thinking, what do you mean interior environments? So we said that interior design is something that is quite a little bit, in the sense, it's very easy to learn it. It's very easy to gain that knowledge. You don't need to do a 4-year degree to learn interior design. There are a lot of interior designs, a lot of self-educated interior designers, God help them, but they exist. So we said, how can we offer our students a premium degree, for what they're paying us? And we said, we really want to look at these ideas of, interior environments is really about, it's exactly the same as interior design, but we've taken it a little bit more ahead. We said we are really dealing with kind of more social issues. We're looking at sustainability. We're looking at healthcare design. We're looking at wayfinding. We're looking at different fields. Focus is on social justice, health, well-being, accessibility, things that are becoming important globally. So if our students are going to be placed in any of the multinationals, this program would be ideal for them to do, because the traditional, like we said, we don't do a cookie cutter education. It's very style based. It's very, very style based. And in this day and age where you can have these AI tools, you no longer need an interior designer who is a style based, whose education is founded upon style and stylistic, and so we said our interior designers are going to be much more strategic. So they can go into workplace design, they can go into restaurant design, apartment design, but it's and also metro design, public restrooms, waiting. Many projects open up. We also give them, so for our interior environments, we also give them additional skills that will, make them kind of practice. For instance, if they wanted to do lighting design, we'd give them electives on that, or for instance, set design or exhibition design. So we are covering all of that in the curriculum. We are moving away, like I said, we are moving away from that very traditional approach to interior design that a lot of schools have had so far, and kind of upping the ante and saying our students are going to be future ready by the time they graduate from college in 4 years, in terms of climate change and resources and renewable, using renewable resources. Health is becoming globally quite important in terms of interior design, and they're going to be ready for that, I think. So I hope that answers your question, Dion. Thank you.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
thank you.
Because NR Vivek has asked, and you've spoken about the placement opportunities he says, how's the placement opportunities for the BDes and other disciplines in MDes? You've mentioned primarily about UI UX specialization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, the opportunities are great, but but like I said, we are going to give you the opportunities, right? We are going to liaise. That's what the placement cell is for. So, but I think if you want to be future ready, that's where the minors come in, right? That's where the additional certifications come in, because the job market constantly changes. So I can tell you, yes, the job market is great in product. After 4 years, it may not be, right? Or the job market is fantastic in the UX, but it might be changing constantly. So we're always saying that our students will operate as designers first and then specialists. Well, they have a specialism, but they also have a second specialism in terms of minor. So the job prospects are good. But who knows what happens in 4 years, and what happens to the markets and the global climate in 4 years. So we want our students to be future ready and agile designers, I think, right? But Professor Rajavel, if you wanted to jump in and answer that question further, that'll be great. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Anuradha. The aspect I want to address is about UX. We talked about UX only because the first two cohorts to graduate were postgraduate in UX only, and that is the course that we are offering in MDes right now. But the current cohort for BDes, there are three specializations that are graduating, and as the dean mentioned, the placement cell is in place, and we are working to bring in the opportunities. Yes, we don't want to create just job seekers. We want to create designers who think for themselves and who will create their own opportunities and be agile and be responsive to the conditions out there. And that while that is happening, we are working on creating these opportunities. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Dr. Rajavel and Professor Rajavel and Dr. Anuradha. There's a question from Anant Krishnan who's asking, which year did RVU start the design school?
2021, if I'm right. 2021. We were established in 2019 by the State Act. So we're a state private university, but actually officially opened in 2021. We're in the 4th year and going strong, getting stronger.
Yeah. Fantastic. So Mohit Kapoor is asking, kindly help with the batch size, the hostel facility, and the fee per year.
All right, I'll tell you about the batch size, unless Rahul, you want to take it? It's all and in continuum with the hostel and the fee. Yeah.
All right. So the batch size would be around 200. So we have kept it across all specializations put together. It will be 200. Hostel, we have separate facility for both girls and boys. And the last question was for
the fee
fees.
structure.
The fees.
Yeah, the fee for academic year 24 was 4,26,000 per year. However, we are still yet to fixed the fees for 2025, which should be there in place in the next 10 days.
All right. Thank you for that. NR Vivek is asking, are there any minor subjects offered from mechanical engineering department? For example, if a student wants to pursue automobile design, how should one proceed with the selection of minor subjects?
No, we don't offer that yet. But I mean, if there's, we're thinking of doing a poll. If there's a great amount of interest in that, we might. So we do have people who are also engineers as part of the product design team, and they're engineers. Their first degree is in engineering, and then second degree is in design. And if that's something that is of interest, we look at student interest, what the student interest is, and we will start a minor on that actually. But currently, we don't have it. Yeah.
So you're saying you don't have a minor in the engineering, or is it in automobile?
We don't have a minor in and we have minor in computing, computer engineering, but not in mechanical engineering.
All right. So NR Vivek, I hope you got your answer for that. But Dr. Anuradha, let's say someone wants automobile or transportation or product design, and they want to do a minor in, so Vivek's question is, okay, how should they go about selection of the minor subjects?
Okay, the selection of the minor is really first in, first served, and then we fight to death about who gets in and who gets out. Generally, we try to keep a large, because we are offering minors not only to our students, but also outside our school. We have an open, it's in a first in, first served. It is not filtered on based on academic merit and marks and attendance and all of that. So it's a fairly fair and democratic process of actually selecting. It's first in, first served. Everything opens up at once, and then students sign up. And sometimes we'll have a 10% deviation instead of. So if there's such a big demand, we'll have to think of expanding the class sizes. So we used to have a smart products, Professor Rajwell, if you remember. We used to have a smart products minor, but there weren't so many takers, so we discontinued. So we run minors specifically on student interest. Where there is a demand, we'll run it. Where there is no demand, we'll phase it out. This is how we operate.
All right. Yeah. That sounds good. So Ramya Raghu is asking, can students take psychology as a minor?
Yes, there is a liberal arts minor. So there is a liberal arts minor. There's no psychology minor, but there is a liberal arts minor, which has a package of different courses from the liberal arts school. And that minor will be, like I said, will be 32 credits. That will happen from second, third, and fourth year. And the student will graduate with that minor.
All right. Yeah. Could you please pull up the slides which has the different schools?
Yes, we can. Of course I can. Yes. Just give me one.
I think this is a very important part of the discussion.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here. Here we are. So
yeah.
So these are the schools that we have, and I think we've added School of Allied and Health Sciences, which is going to open next year. But Dion, does that help to look at that?
Yes. Yeah. This is very good because this helps with a lot of the questions here, Vivek's question and Ramya's question. So what happens effectively? A student can be part of the School of Design and Innovation and take minor subjects from any of the other schools, right?
Yeah.
So you can be, let's say, a UI UX designer with computer engineering as a minor.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm because you raised that question, I'll go to this slide, Dion. And that's again, that shows you 2022 batch. Again, 2023-24 offerings change based on number of students and demand and faculty availability. But see, 2023 batch, we're offering 4 minors. And each of these have 40 seats, so they're about 160. But not all our students will go into this, right? Because we push our students out of the school and say, please go and do minors in other schools. So therefore, then computer science and engineering will have different minors, and these are minors that are offered to non-computer science and engineering students. So they are kind of designed to be adaptable, that students can actually, and then if you can see economics and entrepreneurship. And so it changes every year. By the time the students only selects a minor in the second year. So by the time the students enter our university, again, this list will change. But fundamentally, the commitment of the university is this idea of the interdisciplinary education. And we will always ensure that our students have minors to choose from other schools, as well as electives to choose from other schools. Right?
So I think this is something that's absolutely amazing, and anyone who's looking at RVU, the School of Design and Innovation, should really focus on this. I think this is a huge benefit, because the diverse understanding for a student is
Yeah.
much better, right? The exposure would get much better. So Aditi Iyer is asking, could you please mention the courses learned by the students during their trips abroad to different universities?
I can do it now. There was I think there was strategy and innovation. If you look here, where the international program was, sorry, bear with me. So these students, as you can see, so the ones who went to Rome went for a program called Made in Italy. So IED has, for instance, we have a partnership with IED, and IED has a suite of summer programs. So it's not just one or two. They've got 6 or 7 too, and they're different campuses. There's Brazil, there's Barcelona, there is Florence, there's Rome, there's Firenze. So our students went to 3 different locations, and they chose programs. Made in Italy went to Florence. Fashion photo shoot went to Rome. And I think this strategy and innovation in design went to Barcelona again. So and the best thing is that this is all an international cohort. They got meet, apparently the students who went to Rome, they got to meet students from some 10, 12 different countries all over the world. So all of these are published on the websites of IED, and so yeah, and they can choose from that, and the price generally remains the same, and they give us a discounted fee just because we have an agreement with them. So because we have an agreement with them, they give us a special fee that for our students, because we have that MOU with them, right? For the students who went to T-site, they didn't have any. They had a curated 6 weeks. So there were lots of courses on, like I said, photography, podcasting, Photoshop, fashion, kind of doing fashion design using, different softwares, and working in the workshop. And, there's a very, very hands-on, very little classroom teaching, but a lot of skills based, which it's so immediately applicable. They can immediately graduate and apply these skills because they've learned it right now. And these are brand new skills. These are not skills they already had before. So I hope that helps.
Absolutely. Interesting. Shritika K is asking, what is the admission process for BDers, and how do we go about the portfolio round?
Rahul, that's your question.
Yeah.
So the admission process is going to be simple. It's an online application which we will be going live between 3rd to 5th of October. It is simple. You have to go on the website and apply online, submit your application. And once your application is received, the counselor will connect with you for a brief portfolio. A portfolio is something which is about 8 to 10 slides with whatever you have worked earlier, whether it's a photography, whether it is a digi art, whether it's a canvas design or sketching or anything which shows your creative side. And in a single PDF, if you can create it, maybe around 8 to 10 slides, that will be sufficient for us. These portfolios get reviewed by the faculty members. You will be called for an online interview. You clear the interview, and you can be a part of the university.
Including Professor Rajavel here, who has taken lots of interviews. If you want to shed a little bit more light on that.
Yeah. So, fundamentally, we look at portfolio and how the student is presenting their portfolio, their work, and their identity. So, they are coming to us to learn design. So we don't really evaluate how good a designers they are. What we really look for is what is the potential, what is hiding behind, what is the aspiration, what are they interested in, what is firing them up. And it's very clear sometimes that they are focused, they are clear, and they want to do certain things. And these are the things that we look for. And we encourage students to create their own portfolio. Don't go by templates, don't go by standards, and so on and so forth. Look at others' portfolio, get inspired, but create your own portfolio and then discuss on that. That is primarily what we look for.
This is interesting. I would like to build up on this, Professor Rajavel, because you were there at the Design Career Fair and you were evaluating the portfolios of, a huge group of students out there. So
Right.
what was your general observation of the students? And is there any feedback just a general feedback that you can give to help them improve?
Yeah. So, hope I can be candid. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, beautiful interactions. I really loved that session, even though, I should say it was almost 6 hours and we were talking continuously to students. It was exhausting, but it was also inspiring to see the creativity, to see the passion, and to see the clarity with which students came and asked. But, what excited me or, kind of interested me more is when the students show their own work. Sometimes they do have a template. Okay, I have to have one pencil sketch. I have to have one water paint. I have to show one isometric. I have to show one this. So I saw that in multiple students. I don't know where they get that from, but somehow there seems to be kind of templatizing. So there is nothing wrong in that. They have to show certain skills, 3D visualization, isometric, and so on and so forth. But whenever they show their own original take and when they describe what inspired them to do a certain work, that is much, much more interesting. So students will have to create their portfolio and present themselves in that portfolio very, very uh, you know, very bravely, very honestly.
Absolutely. I think this is fantastic feedback because, you know, many of the students kind of believe that, okay, they have to showcase a huge variety of work, but in that process to showcase the variety, they lose the originality, right? So I think if I have to summarize, we're reiterating here that the portfolio is about you, right?
Mhm.
And your story and your potential and you need to bring your personal story out in that. So please take this. So Aditi Iyer, I'm glad you asked this question. Um, sorry, Hritika, I'm glad you asked this question. So please take all these points very, very keenly and make your portfolio very unique. All right. Aditi Iyer is asking, what happens in the interview round? Is it like a normal interview round, or are there any particular criteria that y'all are looking for in the interview? What are y'all looking for?
Uh,
So now they want the code.
so, Dr. Anuradha, do you want to?
No,
Okay.
I'd imagine we're looking for a student's personality
Yeah.
and passion. They're genuine and they're passionate. I think that's yeah. Like Professor Rajmal said, we're not enrolling designers. We are enrolling students who are going to learn design, and we expect them to know zero design. But so that's fine with us. But the passion has to be there. Somehow they have to communicate that they're interested in that, and that might come in many different forms. Sometimes there was one student who took admission, and she said, I don't come from a design background. I don't really know what it is. I said, well, have you taken photographs of things? And she said yes. And I said, why don't you put that on an Instagram, a channel, and then kind of curate. Let me see what your visual world is. We want to know the student as a person, I think, rather than a skilled person, I think. Professor Rajabal, am I correct? Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. So, let me kind of add a little. I think, like Dion said, they're looking for a code or, what is the algorithm to crack.
yeah.
First thing is there is no algorithm to crack in a design interview. It's very free flowing, and the questions kind of grow out of the responses. Nevertheless, we have things like our evaluation criteria are very simple and very open-ended too. How the students communicate, the interviewing process, and how is the portfolio. When I say how is the portfolio, how great a designer you are, we are not looking for that. What is the potential you demonstrate, and what is the honesty with which you have created that work, positioning that work. So interview and portfolio, these are the two aspects. And typically, one other thing that we ask while the student is introducing themselves is, why did you choose design? Because the world is full of people who want to become engineers and doctors and lawyers and so on and so forth. Design is a very, very chosen direction. And so we do expect students to have that clarity and that conviction when they talk to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the interview, if I just might
yeah,
add, is a very pleasant thing. It's not a drilling session. It's not,
yeah, yeah.
it's
But
very
no,
pleasant. It's a conversation.
yeah, we have had jokes. We have asked students to, hey, why don't you, sketch me? And then we have been models, and they do a portrait, and it's fun. Yeah.
Right. And this is interesting because again, you really want the students, you want to understand the student, and that needs to be very articulate. I think from their side, y'all are looking for that clarity of thought, right? And as simple as it sounds, that's where the complexity is.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So Aditi, I hope you've got that. She's got a follow-up question. Will there be any tests during the interview round or on-the-spot questions, or would it be, or any on-the-spot questions?
I think I probably answered that. We sometimes say, why don't you sketch me? Or why don't you sketch an object in your room that you're seeing? But these are more to understand, how quickly nimble they are. We have asked them, hey, can you give me two ideas of how you would improve the situation? How nimble they are and things like that. But these are not, it's not as if every interview will have one or two of this. You might not face these questions at all. So yeah, there it is.
Right. And Bhavin Bhavin is asking, by which date are students expected to submit their portfolio for the 2025 batch? When do
Ah,
they do
Mr.
this?
Rahul, question.
So I think between your application to portfolio is generally maybe 2 to 3 days is what we expect, because we schedule the interviews every week. Okay, and it depends on how many people have submitted their portfolio, as it is one of the most important component to assess your performance.
All right. So Vishwanathan is asking, is the interview done online?
It's online.
Okay.
It's online. Yeah.
So this is interesting. So what they need to do, number one, apply.
Yeah.
Number two, at the time of application, they need to have their portfolio ready because in 2, 3 days they're going to submit that. And then shortly after that, they're going to have an interview
Right.
and a discussion on that portfolio.
Right.
Is there going to be any test,
No.
like written test?
No. No. We don't have any written test as such.
All right. So the next question is, why don't you have a written test?
I knew it. Why don't you have a test? Yeah.
I feel.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
I think the portfolio interview is a test. So we don't believe in kind of metricizing it, that there are correct answers to certain things. And, this is not what we're going for in our design school. So we are very clear on that. So there's no correct answer. There are no objective questions that are asked. So I think what Professor Rajavel, when he talked about, is that I think what we are trying to test is the student's understanding, not the knowledge. So not the knowledge, how big is this? What is this? Not the factual things, but we're trying to understand the student's understanding and motivation. This is what so it is a kind of a test actually,
Yeah.
but not the test that's very metrics based or MCQ based or, essay based or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because what you want are motivated students to come into your school, right? Motivated students students are very clear as to why they want to be there and what they want to do, and why they want to do what they want to do, right? So that's the kind of students, and that really doesn't come out in a written test. It does come out very clearly in an interview. So fantastic. I like that
Precisely,
approach.
Leon. I'll just end up with one notice. Back in 21, when we started the university, the first 2 years we conducted the test. And then when we met the students later, we kind of understood their aspirations was not in something cracking in 120 minutes by writing an MCQ of 90 questions and all that, while the entire faculty fraternity weighted how they perform in a creative side and the passion side, which you cannot see in the MCQ question. So we
Yeah.
cautioned in the third year, and from there on, there was never looking back. We
Yeah.
continued.
And they've had 12 years of being tested. So we said, now we're going to do it. Design school has to be different, has to,
Very true. Yeah.
Interesting, very interesting. And on this note, Rahul, I just wanted to reiterate that you said that the application form links are not out yet, right?
No, no. It will be
Okay.
on third of October.
All right. And as soon as they're out, you'll give us a link. You'll give DQ Labs a specific
Right.
link.
There will be a specific unique link which will be generated only for DQ Lab students,
Okay.
which will be shared with you, and you can share it with
All right.
anyone.
And all these people on this are meant to click only that link, right?
Yes,
Not
yes,
other
yes.
links.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
So what happens is if you go on their website, you'll find another link there. But we still want you to click only this link because um, Rahul and his team have assigned someone for the DQ Labs team and the DQ
Absolutely,
Labs students
absolutely.
to help. Basically, it's a hand-holding process with the application process. So there is someone at Rahul's team who's going to monitor the applications from DQ Labs, and there is someone assigned to handhold you and support you throughout. All right.
Right.
So please make sure that you only like you can go to the RV website, that's fine, but you click on this link, that's very important, right? Going forward, Vivek is asking, do you accept UC scores for admission as well? And when does that process start?
Absolutely. We accept UC scores and even NID scores as well. And so it will start, I think, once the exam gets over and the results are published. Okay. In fact, we have also earmarked certain scholarships based on your UC score and NID score. For now, I will recommend students to check the website, go on a scholarship section, and understand what were the metrics for last year students. The 25 is not out yet, but for 24 it is mentioned very clearly. And if they fall under that category, that particular score, that particular rank, then there are chances that they get benefited.
All right. All right. That's interesting. So what you're saying is they could apply to the school,
Yeah.
right? At any point of time. But if they do apply now, they'll have to go through the regular process. But after the UCED and NID results are out, then they have the option of getting a scholarship. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. So my advice to everybody would be that you apply now, apply early, apply early, because the cycle will go up till you see it, then it will go till NID dat and main. So it'll take some time, but you apply now. The advantage is the scholarships are given on the people who have registered with the institute first, and the results follow later.
All right. All right. Right. So as soon as probably in the next 10 days, we should share the link with you and you all can click on that and apply. So Vishwanathan is asking, when can we expect the results after the interview?
Typically 48 hours.
Okay.
48 hours. We need to collate the data. Since it is with multiple faculties, we have multiple panel of interviews being conducted. So the admissions team will collate that data, and then once it is out within 48 hours, I think it's definitely possible. We can publish it.
All right. Jafar Syed is asking, ma'am, will my competitive exam count for the admission? Jafar, if you could elaborate on your question, I didn't really understand your question, unless you mean will your NID or UC score count, in which case that's answered. So please elaborate and we'll get back to you. Yeah. Bhavin is asking, what is the calendar period between which application will be accepted? So that's 2 to 3 days after your interview, right? Santosh Sahu is asking, can you tell me more about communication design intake under RVU?
Hmm.
How is it different from the school of film and video animation?
We are higher, obviously. And I think a lot of parents are ask this question also, if there is a cap. If communication design has a cap, his product has a cap, do you have a maximum intake in one? And what will happen if you over enroll in one and all of that? They have asked these kind of questions. I hope that will also help this person who's asking this question. So we don't have a cap. So if we get 20, we get 20, we get 40, we get 40, and we get 60, we get 60. So communication design is one of the more very, very popular programs. And this year we have, it's neck and neck with product design and UX design. So very, very popular. And no, we don't have a ceiling. So not to be anxious. The parents are like, what if I apply and I don't get in? So it doesn't work like that. And how we do it is that we have a staffing process. So if we get a high number of students in any discipline, we staff accordingly. We don't put 60 students in a class with one teacher. It's not like that, right? So because parents are also worried about the academic delivery. What is the quality of education my child is getting, right? So we have that process, and we have a lead up time. So we ensure that you have that ratio. Yeah.
All right. All right. Um, so the question goes on to say, how is it different? How is the communication design program different from the film and video?
Okay,
School?
okay. So I think communication design and new media, what we're doing is kind of everything, we, in terms of graphic design, publication, illustration, web design, kind of everything. Whereas film and media, I think, Rahul, you can clarify it also, because I don't want to speak on behalf of that school, is animation. So they have a BSc in animation, for instance. That's very, very focused on that. So we will cover stop motion as one of the courses. We will cover branding, we will cover packaging, we will cover corporate identity, we'll cover all of that. The whole 4 years is going to cover all of the things that you're a comprehensive and a well-rounded communication designer. Okay, so, but it's different from film and media. Rahul, if you wanted to clarify
Yeah.
what film and
No, I
media
think
might
that
be helpful for the parent.
you have summed up well. There is also a possibility of any student, like ma'am mentioned in the presentation also, you can do a communication design major and take a minor from a school of film and design,
Correct.
animation,
Or vice versa.
or
Or
vice
vice
versa.
versa.
You
Yeah,
can bundle.
correct.
Yeah, yeah,
Correct. Depends what you imagine your career to be, where you
right.
imagine your career. Are you in the media sector or are you in the communication design sector? They're not the same things actually. So they do a lot of thing on kind of filmmaking and probably if I'm right, they do a lot
Yes,
of
absolutely.
filmmaking and acting and production. So it's very different from communication design, which
Yeah,
is
they get into cinematography, 2D, 3D design. Yeah,
correct. Yeah,
those kind of visual effects.
yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Yes.
So effectively, I mean, film and video also is a subset of communication design, but here it's a specialization in the film school.
No. I think they more have kind of a small overlap. I think, but they have that entire career track is completely different.
All right.
The
For
communication.
those of you who want a little more clarity on this, if you can click on the
We can. Yeah,
description
actually,
of this.
our curriculum, Dion, is uploaded on our website, so they can easily go and look at the course names of
Okay.
the communication design. So,
All right. All right. Also, in the description of this particular webinar, we have put in about 5 links to YouTube videos.
Yeah.
One is, of course, the Dean's Welcome Address. There's one about the Experience Design Program at SDI. One is the Communication and New Media Design, the Interior Environments, students' installation at the Kalagoda Arts Festival in Mumbai. So there's 5 very interesting videos in the description of this email. If you of this webinar, if you don't see it yet, refresh your screen and you should be able to see it, right? Rahul, I've sent you a small little message in this chat room, if you can look into that.
Yeah.
Minal Agarwal is asking, which design course is the flagship program at RV and also provides campus opportunities, campus placements opportunities.
I'm not sure what that means exactly. So we are doing a campus placement drive that is yet to come. That's going to come in October.
All right.
Because we haven't had a batch that has gone for placement yet, where we have one going now.
All right.
So that will happen, and we can share that information when that happens. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. So I think the other question is there a flagship program under RV University that this program is the best program in our
I think we're called the flagship school, right, Dion? Isn't that what everybody calls us, the flagship school? So not the flagship program,
yeah.
right?
Okay. So yep. So that's Minal, I hope that is something that you are looking forward to. 1 second. All right. And okay. So Sindhuja is asking, once the student is selected in the admission process, what fee is required to pay or to confirm the seat?
So we've not yet decided for 25, but giving you an overview of 24, the initial fee which was supposed to be remitted was 50,000, followed by 50% of the balance fees in 1 month, and thereby the balance fees in another month.
All right. All right. So looks like we've come to the end of all the questions. In the meantime, what I am doing is I'm sharing the contact numbers in this chat, in the chat. So you have the number of Preetu or Rahul Sharma. If you have any doubts and you'd like to reach out, please connect with them on these numbers and inform them that y'all are part of the DQ Labs webinar, or you saw them on this webinar, or you're part of DQ Labs. And they'll be very, very happy to reach out to you and give you whatever information that you need. But that brings us to the end of the session. It's extended by 12 minutes because of the questions. It's been a fantastic session. Lot of good questions that have come in today. Fantastic. Happy to see so many questions, such an interactive audience. Thank you so much to the participants mostly. You guys have been fabulously interactive today, so very, very appreciative of that. That makes the lives of Dr. Anuradha, Rajavel, Professor Rajavel, and Rahul so much easier and happier when you'll ask these questions. So it makes all of us happy when you'll ask these questions, get those doubts out, and apply as soon as possible. Thank you so much to the RV team for being here.
Thank you, Dion, for the invite. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank you.
joining. Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
the
Dion.
best. Thank you.
I'll just Professor Rajavel, you have anything to add? No.
No,
All right.
just answer.
Okay. Let